everyone! Konnichiwa! Today, my group mates and I will be presenting Japan's culture. What's familiar and what's not. Whether Japan is high context or low context. Monochronic or polychronic. Individualistic or collectivistic. Japan, the land of the rising sun, is one of the world's most technologically and economically advanced countries. Despite the staggering losses from World War II and 2 atomic bombings to boot, Japan has persisted to become a great power. But more than its authorities in automotives and electronics, Japan is well known for its culture that has become one of the backbone of their economy.
From an outsider's perspective, Japan is well known for its very distinctive and prominent visual art, anime. Anime refers specifically to animation that is produced from Japan. More than the complexity and intensity of contemporary anime storylines, anime has proven to become a usual foothold for someone who is interested in Japanese culture. Animes from Japan usually include within them slice-of-life stories that present the mundane experiences of a character in Japan.
Aside from what the eyes can feast on, those that which the stomach can feast on is something Japan is also known for. Foods like ramen, sushi, sashimi, udon, and tempura are some of their celebrated dishes. Traditional Japanese cuisine mainly revolves around rice, soup, seasonal ingredients, and seafood both grilled and raw.
One of the hallmarks of Japanese culture is also its national dress, the traditional Japanese garment, the kimono. The kimono is worn wrapped around the body, left side over right, commonly with a sash or obi. The kimono in modern Japan is most frequently seen at summer festivals, funerals, and weddings.
Art is something that is very central and close to Japanese culture. Aside from having a rich pool in calligraphy, literature, pottery, and painting, Japan is also known for its love of theater and performing arts. Their performing arts exhibits major diversity, cultural precision, and high-spirited emotions, which is admired not only by their people, but to the rest of the world. Famous performance arts are kabuki, puppet theater or bunraku, geisha, and maiko.
These facets of the culture of Japan that we normally see is what we normally associate with the country we are familiar with. These recognizable aspects of the culture is what Edward Hall in his cultural iceberg called the surface culture. But like any other things in this world, there is more to uncover if one delves deeper the deep culture. This aspect of the country's culture is something much more hidden to the general audience and can only come into view when one intimately tangles himself with the culture.
One of the most enduring parts of the Japanese deep culture is the concept of hone tateme. Hone, which means true sound, refers to a person's hidden true feelings and desires, which are most of the time contrary to what is expected to them by the society. While tateme refers to a facade, refers to agreeable opinions and behaviors one displays in a society. Japanese culture, shame and conflict are frowned by the society. Public approval is unto high regard to preserve honor, and in order to attain honor, a Japanese usually buries his hone and only reveals his tatame to not bring shame to themselves and to his family.
The value of cleanliness is also something that is central and important to Japanese culture. According to Shinto, meaning the way of gods, and Japan's native belief system, cleanliness lies at the heart of the way of the gods. Cleanliness is not only next to godliness, it is godliness. In Shintoism, if someone is afflicted with kegare, which means impurity or dirt, it can bring calamity to society as a whole. Only through purification or cleaning can the kegare be removed and ensure the society's peace. More than that, in Japanese culture, physical cleanliness is believed to be closely related with spiritual purity.
The Japanese notion on the self is also very distinct. For them, in order to establish yourself, You need to imagine an ideal role and situate that self in relation to other people. This lens of figuring out who you are in respect to your relationship with other people is a hint of the strong collectivistic culture that persists within the country.
Japan is a very strong collectivist society. They tend to focus on the well-being of the group over the individual as they believe that taking care of the group benefits the individual. More than that, there is a pressure to preserve the prestige and honor of the family, or at the very least, take care of the family, lest the individual bring shame to the family. Japan, as a collectivist society, also displays a high degree of trust to the members to not do something harmful, as what they do can impact themselves as well. In Japan, there is this show called Hajimete no Otsukai, which means first errand, which discreetly films 6-year-old children, but with the parents' consent of course, as they venture the neighborhood doing simple errands for the parents. Strict adherence to the rules, norms, and standards set by the community is a hallmark of collectivism.
Companies in Japan are also paternalistic, meaning the higher ups relate to the workers the same way a parent relates to the children. Essentially, company is family. In Japan, establishing a strong connection with your co-workers is a must, as it is believed there that once you are hired for life. A mistake, error, even a grave one, in the work is usually not a grounds for dismissal, as every worker is treated as a family member.
Japan's very strong adherence to shared common values and assumptions makes it, being a high context culture, feasible. High context cultures are cultures that rely on implicit communication, non-verbal cues, and a lot of context. Rather than being explicit and direct, there is an underlying assumption that what is not said is already understood by the person. Japanese tendency to favor group harmony and homogeneity makes this kind of communication possible, as all Japanese people are believed to be raised under the same exacting rule. As an example, Japanese rarely tend to flat out say no or give an explicit negative response, as there is preoccupation of non-confrontational behavior and the importance of not making the other person lose face or shame.
If you are a foreigner who is not entangled by the assumed premises of the Japanese interaction, you'd be labeled as a KY, short for Kuukigayamanai, or someone who cannot read the air. What makes it harder is that if you ask what to do or what people expect you to do, you could come off as rude rather than ignorant. This occurrences is usually found in the Japanese workplaces where everyone has shared traditions and expectations.
Now, in Japan's perception and time management, despite having the most rigid work ethics and longest working hours in industrialized countries, Japan is actually both polychronic and monochronic in time orientation. This is surprising as outsiders typically view Japanese people as monochronic, leading very schedule-bounded lives that spares no minute of waste. There is also a studied causality that high-context cultures typically use a polychronic perception of time, making Japan very unique as it is both monochronic and polychronic.
The polychronic culture of Japan also stems from the communal nature of the workplace. Workers work closely together, juggling multiple tasks in a non-linear fashion. More than just working, workers are encouraged to socialize with one another as a company is not seen just as a company, but also as a family. This polychronic culture is also emphasized during social gatherings where things happen just as they do and time is of less concern.
Japan's monochromic nature is seen in the adherence of Japanese people towards deadline and preoccupation with punctuality. But although Japanese people work against deadlines, they can choose to prioritize and do multiple things at once as long as they meet the deadline. Japan's monochromic culture is also much more emphasized when they are working with foreigners, as they do not want to be embarrassed. A reason could be that during the end of the 19th century, a lot of visiting Europeans on the island would complain about the Japanese people always being late.
And that's basically everything you need to know about the Japanese culture. There's so much more to discover, like the rich history of their language, Japanese, script, and we hope that this video has been educational and has sparked your interest. Again, thank you for watching and Sayonara!